This conference will now be recorded.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining us. I am joined by a very special guest. His name is Len May, and he is the founder of Endo DNA, based around customized cannabis, taking someone's genetics and finding the perfect cannabinoid for them. Thank you so much for joining us, Len.
Thank you, Luke. I appreciate it. I co-founder and CEO of Endo Health.
Yeah. Is there a woman? I don't remember her. Is there a woman and then you, or is it two guys?
No, my partner is Eric Kaufman.
Okay.
He and I started the company together.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Sweet. Awesome. So yeah, just tell us what exactly is Endo Health? What was the problem you're trying to solve? What inspired you to do this product, this business?
I think it would be helpful if I kind of give you a little bit of my background, because it's a personal mission. As a kid or as a teenager, I was diagnosed with ADD, and I was put on all kinds of prescription medication, and they all sucked pretty bad. Yeah. And I was hanging out with some older kids, and they asked me if I wanted to smoke a cigarette. So me trying to be cool, I was like, yeah, smoke a cigarette, sure. And they gave me a cigarette, and I took a drag of it, and I started coughing. I realized that the cigarette was filled with cannabis. And when I went back to class, my windows that are in my head started slowing down. So I started to be able to focus. I'm like, oh, this is my medicine. This is my go-to. So I stopped taking everything else, continued to consume cannabis. My parents weren't big fans of that. Eventually ended up kicking me out, actually calling the cops to try to have me arrested. The irony of this whole thing, just to digress, is my parents consumed formulations that we helped develop now, so it came full circle. But from that standpoint, that was an interesting experience. After that, I became an activist. I was the president of the Cannabis Action Network. I held the rallies at Independence Hall. I'm from Philadelphia, and that's for legalization. Moved to LA about 11 years ago and got into the dispensary business. So we had 5 dispensaries, cultivation facility, delivery service, all that stuff. And the feds really closed us down with a cease and desist. But the frustrating thing that I was having is we would have 2 people with the same symptomatic conditions, and we would give them the same cultivar or chemovar, and they would have a completely different experience. And I was just super frustrated. My type of ADD is like multitasking a million things or hyper focusing on one. So
are you ADD?
Scroll moment. AD, I'm not hyperactive. I'm the dreamy one that looks out the window, and the teacher's like, hey, Len, what? And I'm like, oh, I was thinking of something completely different at the moment.
That is so funny. I am the exact same, by the way. I hope you know that. I grew up very similar. I have really bad ADD. And I've learned quite a bit about it. It's like you got a Ferrari engine and like a Cadillac's body, right? Like, and you're just taking in so many things, and I'm the exact same actually. I'm a huge proponent of cannabis being potentially, it could hurt people with ADD, but I think there's a lot of solutions there. I wanted to say that.
There is, and you gave a great analogy, and what happens is that we have a depletion of dopamine. So our brain is always searching for a hit of dopamine. That's why we get squirrel, and it's something else. Oh my God, maybe I'll get some dopamine over here. But but when we actually get that dopamine, it hyper laser focuses. I want more of that. And like video game creators, they start making video games for kids with AD that sit there and play for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. For me, it was painting maybe, which is much more productive, I think, than play video games. Not that I have anything against that. But so when I started this mission. I've been trying to solve this issue. Why 2 people have a difference? And I saw a video by a guy named Kevin McKernan, who's one of the first people to genetically sequence cannabis. And that was my obsession. I started contacting Kevin. Long story, probably even longer. I went to work with Kevin in medicinal genomics. I traveled the US, Canada. I would get plant material and I would bring it to my lab, extract the DNA, purify it, and send it to Boston to a sequencer. So we started the first cannabinoid or library called Cannapedia. So we can see, I have 5 blue dreams, And when I sequenced them, 2 of them are Blue Dreams genetically, 2 of them are cousins of Blue Dream, and 1 of them is not even close. So I always thought it was the flower, the chemovars and cultivars. But then we had an experience. We had a bunch of doctors that were treating kids with epilepsy using CBD.
Yeah.
And they came and they said, oh man, kids going from 100 seizures to 0. But then there were some outliers, and the doctors were saying, it's a Harvard Medical School, and they were saying the kids' seizures are coming back, or it's not working for them. So when we looked at the genetics of those kids on the pharmacogenomic side, we saw they had biomarkers in common that were for a form of epilepsy called Dravet syndrome, and we published on that. And you already know about GW Pharma, focusing on Epidiolex because they could focus on that specific biomarker. And it was my light bulb moment. I was like, well, if you can have one biomarker specific for that, maybe there's others. So I approached them. They really didn't want to proceed with that. They want to focus on the plant. So I borrowed or took a scientist with me, built a science team. And the first 6-7 months, all we did was research. And we launched Endo DNA Health in 2017. And we researched every single SNP, single nucleotide polymorphism, which is your gene that has a direct or indirect association with your endocannabinoid system. Once we did that, we made sure that everything has a reference, a peer-reviewed reference, and then we partnered with a company called Illumina to build a custom chip and array for us. So we have somewhere around 700 specific biomarkers or SNPs that we sequence. And then we provide a report in a HIPAA-compliant, completely anonymized portal that looks at symptomatic conditions, what people consume cannabis for, and to show you the overall goal is to avoid an adverse event. So you can have a more optimal experience with the cannabis use on your cannabinoid and terpene profile, and then align that with products that are more what we call endo-aligned for you.
Yeah,
so that's
wow.
kind of how we get started.
That's amazing. I mean, yeah, so the process of the the business model is to help companies potentially develop products with their own to help with this, or is it and it's to direct consumers, right? Both, or is it?
Yeah. It's a really good question. So our business model was direct to consumer up until January of 2020, pre-COVID, let's say, because there's some other things that we made the shift. So we make money 3 ways. Number one, our kit, it's a swab. You swab your mouth, you put it back in the box, you ship it to our lab. It's a $199 US retail. The second way we make money is you can take any of your other DNA data from 23andMe, from Ancestry, from any of the other ones that you've already taken, that you already paid money. You can take that raw data, upload it to our portal, and get instantaneous results with less than 30 seconds, and that's $49.95 US.
That is
and then the third way we make money is we have 14 patents pending on formulations. There really are 7 formulations that hit about 86% of the general population in those 7 buckets. The reason why there are 14 is some of them are 0.3% THC or less, and some of them are above, a THC formulation. So we license those formulations, so there's blends to different companies so they can make, specific endo-aligned products. That's really our business model.
Wow. I love that. I love how you guys
are and then one more thing. Sorry, look, to stop on you, I forgot. You said B2B and B2C. So in January, we shifted our model. We still have our B2C business where you can buy that on Endo DNA in stores, but our B2B model was that the companies and clinics wanted to use their kits internally within their ecosystem. So we're actually reselling those kits to those companies, and then creating the portal that's branded. Think of us sort of as Intel inside. We power the technology so they can actually use that. So we do have a B2B play as well.
Wow, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So yeah, I mean, I would love if you could actually walk us through, because I want to understand the recommendations based off of your biomarkers. Like I kind of want to, if that's possible.
Yeah,
can we
let's
share
give
this
it a
screen?
shot. I mean,
I would
we're
love
we're doing
that.
it we're doing it live, so if any hiccups come up, just let me know.
Everyone, everyone understands. It'll be
Yeah, we'll
fine.
give it a shot. We'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
All right, so let me see if I can get this perfect. Just want to make sure. So as I go through this is endodna.com, and I already went through a bunch of these things. So yes, we have somewhere around 700 markers, etc. But what I'll do is I will log in directly. And by the way, this is the way the kit looks. So you have, these are different symptomatic conditions that we cover. This is the way, there's also sample reports. So if somebody wants to download a sample report, it has all the different call outs. It shows you how to read the report in detail. So it's easy. You always have to register, which is extremely important. All the data resides on AWS, Amazon's AWS servers. So it's fully encrypted. And if you do not register your sample, we will not know that sample belongs to the individual because we're HIPAA compliant. So it's extremely important. And then the kit looks like this.
HIPAA compliant,
so when you get your
is real quick, it's the privacy laws, right? Around,
correct.
Okay. Sure.
I forgot what the Canadian version of this. We are Canadian, whatever the HIPAA version of Canadian law.
You guys are based in Canada? Smart.
Yeah, as well. Canada and Europe as well. So we're international companies, so we're compliant with all those standards. Awesome. When you get your report, that your email that your report's ready, you would log into your secure anonymized portal. So you would log in here, and you go to My DNA Live, which is that secure anonymized portal. You'll be taken to a welcome page. And as you're taking a welcome page, there's a couple of things I want to point out to you and your audience. Number one, we have this survey. So the survey is focused on a couple of things. Number one, it's for us to get a baseline to understand where you are. Number two, it's also to look at the epigenetics. So what I mean by that is you have your genetics. Your genetics are your predisposition to something, but your epigenetics is what you're expressing in the moment. So if you have a gene that shows a predisposition towards insomnia, but you sleep well, you don't have any issues with that. Your only concerns right now are maybe stress and inflammation, right? So your survey results will lead us to giving you a personalized wellness plan that's geared to what you're experiencing in the moment. We'll still give you those insomnia markers to be aware not to turn that gene on. So that's extremely important. The other thing to know is that we also have a drug interaction report. This is extremely important because most people don't realize that certain cannabinoids interact with prescription medication to inhibit that prescription medication. So we have about 204 different prescription medications, also generics, that are included in our database, and you can add your own medication. And if there's a reference that this medication or cannabinoids can interact with that medication and inhibit it, we will flag that and we'll provide you that information. So, some of them will have a dosage suggestion to reduce your dosage, but speak to your healthcare professional, and some of them will have you can stagger your intake, meaning that take your prescription medication. If you're a rapid metabolizer, wait 20 minutes, then take your cannabinoids, etc. So we guide you in that experience as well. And then the other thing is that you have about 75 different reports in 16 different categories. All the categories are listed here. And then within each one, there's multiple reports. So what I like to do is start with the summary, either overview or summary. It'll take you basically the same location. So when you go into the summary, it's very simple because it tells you sort of a green light, yellow light, or red light. So green means there are no variants detected, so you don't have a genetic predisposition or a factor of that. Yellow means that there is a variant detected, so you have a slightly increased risk. And red means you have multiple variants detected, where you actually may have an increased risk. And the reports are as follows. We have anxiety, which includes fear extinction, PTSD, stress reactivity, cognitive function, which does include some ADHD markers, impulsivity, working memory impairment, some digestive reports, which include sensitivity, IBD. Then there's some dependence reports. And this is really useful that we have healthcare professionals that have used this before to show their patients that they may have an opioid dependence predisposition. And if that's the case, to try cannabinoid therapeutics first. We also look at drug metabolism, CBD and THC specifically, where we can show you based on your metabolic function how to dose. So if you're a poor metabolizer, consume less. If you're a rapid metabolizer, you can consume more. And there's a specific family, it's called pharmacokinetics. It's a specific family of genes that are called cytochrome P450. And the enzyme that metabolizes, one of the enzymes that metabolizes CBD is CYP2C19. So this person is a poor metabolizer. So the suggestion is to modify your dose in half of the recommended dose. For instance.
That is fascinating. Wow, I've heard something with like CBD. I've talked to some testing professionals, and they say they think there's a problem with CBD and how much is being absorbed by the liver. How it
you're right on. So no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and we're doing a clinical study right now with a couple of very large companies, specifically on liver toxicity. And what we're seeing early on, your cytochrome P450 family of markers, those enzymatic markers, can actually indicate if there may be potential for that liver toxicity. The reason why is because if you're a rapid metabolizer, you absorb and you excrete. What happens if you're a poor metabolizer? It stays in your liver, and some of them you don't need as much. You're really creating expensive urine because it'll just go through and you'll pee it out. Yeah. But some of them it'll stay in your liver much longer. So being aware, exactly.
And that and that can build. Yeah, wow, that's fascinating. Well, but why this is like so amazing to me too, though, is it really, it really starts. The and correct me if I'm wrong, but the endocannabinoid system. It's one of the more unexplored systems, right, in the body for the most part. But what this does, though, I think, is that it points to which type of medicine should you take, right? Are we going Western traditional, like, pharmaceutical opioids, right? Or are we doing, so it really starts to, it kind of gives you, it starts to guide you through this maze of where to even start in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And to think about the endocannabinoid system, think of the endocannabinoid system as like sort of the puppet master. So it modulates all the other systems that we have. And the reason for it, it's sort of, I like to use an analogy. It's sort of salmon swimming upstream. It takes signals from all your other systems, and it goes back through the synapse. It goes back to certain parts of your central nervous system, your brain, and it modulates those and says, we must release more of these hormones, more of these chemicals, especially endogenous endocannabinoids, to create that modulation. So the goal of the system is to maintain balance.
It's regulating, right? It's
homeostasis.
To put it broadly.
It's regulating.
Wow,
yeah, to maintain balance of all your systems. And I'll give you actually even a couple examples of that in the reports. As I go through them, you can see that, this person has red major depressive feelings, so there's multiple variants detected. I'll use that as an example, but I'll show you a couple of different ones as well. Just kind of go through the report, and we have some immune, musculoskeletal, some pain, cyclical vomiting syndrome, migraines, sleep, which is bruxism, which I have, grinding your teeth at night, insomnia. Yeah, I didn't know that until I went to get my teeth cleaned. They're like, you grind your teeth. I'm like, no, I don't. You grind your teeth. Okay, well, all right. Then the gene is being expressed. And then THC side effects. And that's really the key. It's psychomotor control, psychosomatic. Some people have an experience that creates a psychosis-like effect. And that has to do with those specific markers. And I'll show you exactly. If I go up to the report, it's really interesting. Fear extinction. All right, there's only one variant in this one. So it says you have one endocannabinoid system, a genotype associated with faster rate of fear memory extinction, which could be protective against conditions such as PTSD and phobias.
Okay.
So this will give you the genetic predisposition around that. What happens is if somebody has, so this gene is really interesting, FAH, F-A-H, right? So FAH, what it does, it actually metabolizes, breaks down anandamide. So this is really, really important, and your audience needs to understand this, because one of the most common adverse events from cannabis is anxiety or stress.
I really wanted to ask you about that. That is the number one thing, anxiety, in my opinion, that I hear from everyone.
Absolutely, and this is what happens. So when you have a stressful event, your body reacts to that. So your brain then releases adrenaline. There's some dopamine. There's some norepinephrine, and cortisol. You're absolutely right. And once your brain realizes the lion isn't chasing you in the jungle and you're cool, your brain then starts releasing other hormones and chemicals. One of them comes from the amygdala part of your brain, and it's anandamide, which is anand, which is endogenous endocannabinoid. The word anand in Sanskrit means your bliss hormone. So it helps to regulate that. But what happens is when a person produces too much FAH, which is this genotype, and I'll explain, what this all means, they produce more FAH than the average population, which then metabolizes more anandamide. So the more FAH you have, the less anandamide, which is you're prone to a much slower response to stress. So stress is much more prevalent. That cortisol is pumped more through your bloodstream and goes into your body, which makes you more acidic. It raises your pH level. Your immune system really doesn't like it, and it creates an overactive immune response, which usually creates inflammation in your joints and sends a signal of pain and discomfort, so people walk around inflamed. If it's untreated, it starts moving into your gut health. It starts affecting IBS, etc. So understanding that you have less anandamide potentially than the average population, you can subsidize that with THC, because THC, when it binds to the CB1 receptor, it sort of mimics the way anandamide works. But here's the rub. When you take a little bit of THC, it's great because it does that, it does that subsidizing. When you take a little too much THC, it actually triggers that fight or flight in those individuals. So you have that response that creates that stress or anxiety. And that's where, cannabinoids, that's where you have a personal response to cannabinoids, meaning that you have to understand what your genetic makeup is to make sure that you avoid that adverse event. And by the way, you can see how you can compare it to general population. So this genotype is prevalent in 6.7%, but there's a lot of genotypes for stress reactivity that are prevalent in half the population. So when they consume, a concentrated form of THC, it can actually turn that genetic expression on, and somebody can experience that.
That is fascinating. Wow. That is. Can I ask one question really quick about in regards to stress?
For sure.
So have you? And I don't know if you're aware of this sickness, and I think we're going to see this a lot more in the coming future. But have you ever heard of CHS, cannabis hyperemesis syndrome?
Yeah, it's cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. Dr. Ethan Russo and Dr. Chris Spooner and us, we're doing a clinical study right now on cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. You can find a link on our site. You can sign up. We've been working on this for a while, and we can kind of see that we have some sort of genetic predisposition in a lot of the participants that's very, very common to our participant group and is very rare in the general population. So we're starting to find some interesting patterns, I guess, on the genotype.
Well, what reminds me, and so my brother had it, and it was crazy. Like, he was on an IV. My girlfriend had it recently, and she was on an IV.
Mm-hmm.
So, but just because you were talking about how it can actually turn that switch on. What I've been explained to, like, in a very simple way, is it it's somebody that has to deal with like stress and then, you know, too much THC, and that flips the switch, and then they just can't deal with anything, and then your body rejects everything, right? You can't eat.
Yeah,
You can't.
it's
Yeah.
a really good
Just
analogy
say it in a
because
simplified manner. Yeah.
no, you said it right. It's a really good analogy. We don't know yet. I mean,
Yeah.
we have some thoughts about it, but you know, the goal of our study is to show if there's a genetic link between people who have this this CHS predisposition, and we're finding a genetic link. We're finding a few of them, but we're finding one specifically that has to do with metabolism and metabolism of other substances. So there could be an interaction between something individuals are consuming and their cannabis use that's triggered due to heavy cannabis use, because most people are heavy, ongoing, daily cannabis users that get that respond with this sort of experience. So
Yeah.
it may be a interaction because it's a cytochrome marker pattern that we're finding, which is metabolism. But we don't know yet for sure, and we're in the middle of the study. So if anybody wants to participate, you know, go to Endo DNA, send me an email. We have a survey, a qualifying survey. It's fully anonymous, and to see if you qualify to participate in that study. It's under an institutional review board, so it's a legit study that we're going to be publishing on.
I know a lot of people. There's whole Facebook groups out there now for this, because that sickness it's bad. But that is amazing though. Wow.
I'll show you one more thing on the report, and I'll take you through this so we can kind of focus on other things as well. But this one is for depressive disorder. So I'm going to show you how to read the report. So you have multiple endocannabinoid genotypes which are associated with increased risk of depressive feelings. You should monitor yourself for signs of depressive feelings, particularly if you have experienced early life stress or significant recent stress. Well, with COVID, who hasn't, right? So this is an interesting thing where it can just how to read the report. It says that, Jai, you may have high risk of depressive feelings if you have experienced a high level of recent life stress. So we show you gene, we show you the marker where it's located on the chromosome, and then we give you a genotype. So this is what's really important. Your genotype is your DNA predisposition that you inherit from your parents. And computers speak in a binary code, ones and zeros, and your DNA speaks in a 4-letter code, which are nucleotides, which is a C, a T, an A, or a G.
Mm-hmm.
The combination of those letters is what makes you you. It's what makes you unique. So anyway, this is really important, and some of them can be controlled by lifestyle, and some that can't. So you're born with some of them, your height, your eye color, your hair color, male pattern baldness, we can't do anything about. But some of them, your lifestyle, what you put in your body, how you, what type of nutrition you have, your mindset, that can actually trigger that expression.
The environment, right? Like the genetics. I've heard the whole saying of like genetics loads the gun and then environment fires it, right? That's you're
full of amazing analogies. Absolutely, that's great.
I just know.
It's really good. It's really good.
I don't know anything about this stuff. Yeah, keep going.
Everything that we suggest, all of our findings must have a peer-reviewed reference. So all of them have peer-reviewed references associated with them. You can see how you compare to other population groups. So if you're American population, North American, this is you. And then if you're Asian, it's much more prevalent in East Asian versus African population. So you can see that people walk around with this genotype, and certain cannabinoid profiles can actually trigger that in an individual. You have an FAQ that can tell you how the endocannabinoid system is involved in depression, for instance, and then you go up and you have your suggestion. So your suggestion suggests a ratio of 20 to 1 to 1 to 1. The reason why there's a range, it depends on your experience with THC. So when you take the survey, we'll get a little bit better understanding of what you experience with THC. But if somebody like my mom, who's never experienced THC, she would consume, something high CBD and then titrate her way down. Also, the secret sauce is the terpene profile. and we suggest limonene and linalool. And the reason why is when you go in, you can see that there's research showing the limonene may reduce stress, anxiety, and depression with a peer-reviewed reference, and linalool helps lessen the anxiety that's provoked by THC. That would be your ideal ratio. Now, you can also say, I don't know, just tell me one thing that's going to work for me. So you can go to your personalized wellness plan, and you can see every single genotype that has been flagged and shows you a specific ratio of what's right for you based on what you're experiencing in the moment. So focus, then you have your immune, you have your relief, which is inflammation, response, which is stress, and then you have unwind, which is sleep. So I kind of use the analogy of maybe this is your NyQuil DayQuil. So if sleep is a challenge for you, this may be your sleep formulation that's higher THC with a different terpene. Hopefully you won't take your NyQuil during the day. Maybe during the day you want your focus formulation. So you can kind of see which formulation to consume when. And then if you want to know, you can have enough information depending on what state, country, or province you reside in. This is enough information for you to maybe get the product that matches your profile, or we look at certificates of analysis for different products, and we try to match them with a specific product that's available on the market. So it could be a product that is an 82% match.
If you guys make recommendations with specific products.
Yeah. So we pull CFAs on those products, and we match them. So you can see that there's all kinds of different products that are available, and you can see from tinctures to topicals to vapes to even flower that are available. So the more CFA certificates of analysis that we can pull in, the better suggestion that we can have on a match using our proprietary algorithm. And you can use your personal shopping assistant and say, well, right now I'm having some issues with stress. What products can I take that can address my stress? And these are the more aligned products that are available for you that can address your stress levels. So I'll pause because I think there was a ton of information.
No, I got it, and I completely got that. That is absolutely, yeah. So is that another potential? I don't know, another potential revenue stream is to use featured products and putting that there.
Yeah, we haven't thought of that as featuring products specifically
not
as a
at this
revenue
point in time,
stream
you
yet.
want to make sure that they get it, but once there's tons of different products at the same stuff, like the same type of offering, like the CBD THC ratio or whatever, then eventually it's just going to be like you can have people get sponsored, right? Or you can sponsor people.
We've been talking about that for a while. What can we do? But we also don't want to cannibalize the people that license our products. It happens that when you license our Endo line products, you have a much better match. So we'll still feature everybody's products, and hopefully at some point the goal is we have a feedback loop mechanism. So if product A and customer A take that product, we're coming back and asking, how's that working for you? So we take that information and we want to give that back to the industry, so the industry can start making better products all along. Yes, monetizing all featured products would be nice, but if all the products are good products and they work, then let the market make a determination of what works better for the individual, and what's maybe available in some place may not be available in another place. But at one point, my future kind of vision is that it's kind of going back to the compounding pharmacy in a way, but I want to be able to get Lens product in LA, in New York, in Sweden, and in Vancouver. It's my formulation number one is the same exact formulation no matter where I get it.
And the data is always coming with me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. I love that.
That's kind of where we're going.
I love that. Yeah, no, yeah, and I thought that was more of a future potential. Like right now, you don't want to jeopardize any sort of. You want to give the best possible, products to the consumers.
But products is where it's at. Yeah, products are where it's at, because at one point, we want to use the kit as the ability to get people the right products for them. So products are definitely in the future and what we're focusing on for sure.
Wow. Wow. So are there any
Do,
other,
do, you want, do you want me to stop sharing the screen, by the way, or,
yeah,
or
let's
keep
stop
on?
sharing. That'd be awesome. Thank you. So I've looked because I've looked because I really started getting through to this area of cannabis through terpenes, understanding terpenes, and I realized, oh, there's this whole world of this. Are there competitors? Are there, in terms of what you guys are specifically doing? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, there are companies out there.
There are like.
Oh, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Look, to us, it's this way. We have patents in our technology. We're first in line, and we're synonymous with DNA testing for cannabinoids. People know Endo DNA. We don't mind competition. There are several different companies. I was just doing a thing on genetic, teaching 100 and something doctors, medical professionals on genomics, and there was a Greenway, I think it was Greenway DNA. I don't remember. I don't want to misquote the name of the company, but there was a competitor, and they're doing some interesting things, which is great. We are our own competition. What I mean by that is our goal is to be better tomorrow than we were today. So anybody that's coming up and doing this, I commend them, because I think that understanding the cannabis is personal is really important, and people should continue doing this. And the more people do this, the more legitimate it'll be part of our everyday therapeutics. What vitamins you consume, what nutrients you consume, what food you consume, what's my probiotic. I love it. More genetic companies. We need to make this super affordable so anybody can get a DNA kit for $20. It's not where the future is in the personalized product. What's going to come out of that test? So yeah, we try to be better than we were.
Yeah, and I just asked this curious. I've heard of a couple like Strain Print's one, maybe that I think they do something a little different.
Strain Print doesn't compete. They're a complementary service. So Strain Print are friends of ours. So Strain Print is the feedback loop mechanism. So they're the ones that we use the DNA, and then they use the engine to ask people how they're doing with their product, so we can learn from that experience, use our AI to get better on the product. But they don't do the genetic testing, as far as I know.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, that is absolutely amazing. This is so cool. Seriously, this like blows my mind. I love seeing this, because like I've been talking about this for so long, but I've never seen like an organized database that gives you recommendations, and yeah, wow, this is blowing my mind, to be honest. This is so cool.
So I'll tell you a couple of things. We use AI and deep learning to find new studies. Right now there's about 60 or so different studies that are going on around the world. So as new research comes up, we pull that in, and with our science team featuring Dr. Ethan Russo and Dr. Chris Spooner and Dr. Mike Tagan and me, we make determinations what studies should be included and excluded. So the more research that's being done around the world, the better our reports will get as well, because we pull that in, and you have lifetime updates to your reports. We're involved in studies too. We have 2 clinical trials and 3 studies under institutional review boards. So I encourage everybody who's in this space, do more research. We'll collaborate with you. You can be a competitor, you can not. It doesn't matter to us. We just believe unequivocally that the way to remove this ridiculous stigma over this amazing therapeutic plant is through science. And the more science we do, the more we collaborate, the better chance we'll have to be able to make it available.
I 100% agree with that. 100%. I mean, that's how that's how the science community works, right? It's all around the world sharing. But that's amazing. So I've heard of Ethan Russo, right? He does True Terpenes, right? That new Dr. Ethan Russo.
Dr. Ethan Russo has a new company called Credo. I believe that's the name of his company. Dr. Ethan Russo is the person that coined like the entourage effect, and he's our science. He chairs our science board. Dr. Chris Spooner is one of the top naturopaths in North America, and Dr. Mike Tagan is a specialist in genomics. He's also the prof of pot. But we have a spectacular team I would put our science up against anyone, and we were learning. We don't. There's more that we don't know than we know. There's 16,000 or more studies in PubMed alone, and they keep adding new ones. But the issue that we have as a general scientific society, or even as a general society, is a lot of studies are done on mice. They're done in test tubes, in vivo, in vitro. They're not human studies, and that's by design. If you think about it, the government's created this way so pharma can take their pass on going through FDA approval, which Epidiolex did, and great. So they showed the pharmaceutical industry that you can take the plant and make it into a pharmaceutical. Am I for it or against it? I have mixed feelings, because I believe that isolating one compound is not going to be the type of therapeutics that you need. You have all these other compounds, like close to 500 of them, and how they interact together is really where you're going to get the effect. So I believe that there's going to be two lines. One of them is going to be the pharma line, which is going to start isolating CBG and THCV and CBDV, and then doing clinical studies on that. And then you're going to have the therapeutics that is going to be sort of the nutrigenomic kind of thing that you can buy in vitamin shops or Shoppers Mart or in a GNC, that's going to have all the different compounds that are tested and consistent. And that's going to be sort of the other, type of formulation, or at least that's my crystal ball.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, though. That makes a lot of sense. That is absolutely amazing. So, in terms of like applications in the future that this can be applied to, like, for example, with like, for example, like athletes, right? There are like certain things that this could be like. I mean, this applies to like everything in life, to be honest. I mean, that's the best. That's the beauty about it. Wow, sorry, it just blows my
Think
mind.
about it this way, Luke. Think about this way. We work with athletes. We work with veterans. This is our concept. You need to be empowered with information. Look at what's happening with the healthcare now during COVID. We've realized the healthcare system is failing us, and I'm not blaming the healthcare system. It's just that they're not designed for this type of thing. We're very, very good in the Western world of addressing a problem when it's
When it
expected.
happens, right?
Surgery. You have a problem. You have to fix your shoulder. Well, shit, we have the best. It's the best in the world. We can go and fix it. The issue is that it's the preventative health
Preventative medicine,
for that problem. And the only way to do that is to learn, to empower yourself with knowledge. I'm a huge fan of all the genetic tests. So for me, or for you to be able to know this up front, it's sort of your GPS. That's my analogy, right? So this is your ways of weed, or whatever you want to kind of call it. It shows you that this road over here is full of, it's got road construction, it's got congestion on it. Avoid it. It shows you that. Now it shows you this is a much better road. It doesn't guarantee there's not going to be a pothole along the way, because that's the genetic expression. But at least you know that this is a better road and this one is a bad road. It's been shown that people try 6 to 8 different products until they find the right product for them. Imagine the amount of money, time, and the adverse events. And some people have a really bad panic attack by taking cannabis, may not even go back to it. And all they need to know is maybe they're a poor metabolizer of THC through the digestive system, but don't consume an edible, consume it under your tongue instead. So that's really the guide. It's to guide you and empower you to be able to take better control over your overall health, and then hopefully, guide you into a much better experience with your cannabis use.
Yeah, absolutely. And I one of the big things that I've kind of realized with, like understanding, your what is the right terpenes or cannabinoids for you. I mean, it really will bring in so many people that had those bad experiences, and give them control. Okay, I want to ask one question though too. So you see in the news quite a bit, right? You see, study potentially shows CBD could treat addiction. Like, as a scientist yourself, or as your team, but like, I know there's a lot of problems that go on with industry-sponsored studies that help support, the business model that these people are selling. Do you think that CBD, like 'cause I always say that, like, if it's studies suggests, it's not definitive, where's the line there? Because I feel like that could be you weaponized against, the cannabis community in general if it's not the case, right? If, get labeled as snake oil salesman or whatever. Where's the line there, I guess, in that sense, if you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I'll answer a couple of different ways. So I'm going to still keep saying that cannabis is personal, and I'll give you an example. CBD. You brought up CBD. So me with my ADD, my friends telling me CBD, I consume that and I go right to sleep and I sleep great. It relaxes me. When I consume CBD at night, what happens is it just allows me to focus a little bit more, and I can start watching stupid TV and read, and I'm not falling asleep from it. So my experience with CBD may be different than your experience. I'm just using this analogy. The other thing is science is definitive. Neil deGrasse Tyson said that when you do an experiment, there is no gray. It's black or white. And the only way to do science right is you do the experiment, you prove that hypothesis, and then you have somebody else replicate that. Then it becomes science. It's yes or no. There is no maybe it does for some. There's no gray area. So when you're doing controlled clinical studies, even under an IRB, and somebody then peer reviews that and replicates that, that's science. Anything that you're not doing that is skewed. It's skewed in that kind of in that way that you were saying.
The bias of whatever it is, yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
There's a bias.
Other scientists to poke holes, and if there's no holes being poked in.
Poke holes. We love the whole.
That's what science is, right?
There's nothing better than getting online with a skeptic. I love it. It's my favorite thing to do, and my mind's been blown. And I've been pointed out that you're wrong, and great.
Yeah.
Show us we're wrong, because that's what there is no failure, right? In this business, you either win some way or you learn, and the learning gets us closer to winning. So that's kind of our motto. We want to poke. It's always a win.
Absolutely. Love that. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Absolutely. Yeah, that is amazing. So you got time for a couple more questions?
Sure. I think so. Yes. I have time.
Okay. Sweet. So what are the collaborations with other industry leaders you're currently focused on? Partnerships. I mean, you talked about some just in our conversation with, with Strain Print being one of those kind of partners, being, other companies. What are some of those?
We're not partners with Strain Print yet, but we've had many conversations, and I think we respect their business and they're really great complementary offering. We're partnering with companies who are reselling our kits, companies like Canaway, Medical Marijuana Inc., which is the first publicly traded cannabis company in the U.S. Also, the NFL Players Congress distributes the settlement to NFL players. We partner with other organizations like that. We partner with companies like Charlotte's Web, for instance, to conduct some studies with them. So we're doing a lot of different studies with different companies like that. And our goal is to partner with everybody. Like on the formulation side, we have formulations and blends, and you said it great. Terpenes are the secret sauce. You have cannabinoids, but those terpenes that work together with those cannabinoids, those essential oils, they make all the difference in the world. So being able to partner with companies that are interested in leveraging, our blends, those are definitely great partners of us. And research. We're working with some of the top cannabis companies in the world right now to conduct studies and research. And there'll be numerous announcements that are coming out soon.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah, no, that's great. I'll be excited to see that. So just to wrap it up, I guess, what's the future that you see for the cannabis community at large when it comes to, understanding the individual's genetic makeup? And then also, what is the future for Endo Canna? as well?
Well, the future for individuals is that people will start realizing that cannabis is personal and start their cannabis journey up front with a DNA kit. And I'll kind of tie this into what our future is. We want to give away the kits for free. We don't want to charge people for that. We feel that every single person everywhere in the world should be able to know what their genetic predispositions are and then go and find the right products for them. That's really our goal. And to be able to get that information to the cannabis industry so people can start creating, us included, and that's where our future is, personalized precision therapeutics that is consistent everywhere you go in the world. And that's really our mission. Our mission is to be able to guide people and then, through science in their personalized products. That's kind of, what I think the future of Endo is.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, and just one real quick last question, just in reference to this, I kind of forgot to ask you a little earlier on. Is Sativa and Indica a good classification? No, I'm assuming. I'm sorry, that shit blows my mind. I go into a store nowadays, the dispensary worker asks me, "Oh, Sativa Indica," and I go, "You pick. It doesn't matter."
What if I tell you there is no such thing as Sativa?
There's no such
Indica?
based off of the look of the plant, right? Isn't that the scientist who founded it? He's like, "Oh, it looks purple and looks green." Like, it just blows my mind.
So the Sativa and Indica, what really this refers to is the original nature of this plant, where it originated from. The plants that originated from Southeast Asia, in the Nepal, northern India area, we found those specific plants. And what happens is they adapt. It's a beautiful plant. It's such an interesting plant. It adapts to its environment. And what it does, because it has a certain type of climate there and certain predators, it creates these essential oils. These essential oils are deterrents under stress from the predators that are attacking the plant. So when you're growing indoors or outdoors, you want to stress your plant so it expresses that terpene profile, which is the essential oil the plant produces. So those specific plants produced a very musky, diesely, skunky smell, and which deterred those specific predators. And that's associated with the myrcene, which is the dominant terpene profile of what you would call an indica, because it's a sedative terpene profile with the THC and other cannabinoids. The other plants that originated in South Africa, like Durban, and in the Caribbean, which even they look even different. They stretch to the sun. Their leaves are a little bit different, and they have a different terpene profile because they have different predators. They smell a little fruitier. They have a little bit of a different smell. Those are associated with like limonene, and the ones that grew, sort of, they have piney smell. They boost serotonin, and they have a little bit different. So those are the sativa dominant strains. But because we crossed chemovars so much, there is no such thing. So you gotta trust two things. Number one, you were asking me what I would urge. I want everybody, all the growers, all the formulators, all the companies, test for terpenes. Calibrate your equipment, test for terpenes. It's extremely important for everybody to know. And then also trust your nose. Like if you're consuming flower, use your nose. Understand using our test that maybe something skunky diesely, maybe they'll hit off my depressive genotype. But something that's fruitier, maybe that's better for me. But if I'm prone to anxiety, I want to try to avoid those sativa dominant chemovars. So that's kind of my 101.
That's a great, that's actually the best explanation I've ever heard of that. That actually makes a lot of sense because, like from regions, that makes complete sense. And then, but nowadays we're in a globalized society. Everything is mixed in together. It's such a, but more so we're in a nuanced society that we have technology like you guys and you guys leading the way to be able to, navigate this very complicated individual experience. Wow. Thank you so much, Len. I really appreciate you coming on and talking.
I appreciate it, Luca. I appreciate your support. And I love to be able to get people that are just find us and say, wow, let me explore more. And I encourage that so much. And I really appreciate you giving us the opportunity. And the one thing I want to say about flower, I kind of forgot. The issue with flower is and I like flower. The issue with flower is it's got genetic drift, right? So being able to get it consistent, like I was saying, wherever I go, it's very hard to do that, regardless of what you call it, because as you get further away from the seed, the flower has genetic drift. So unless you're doing tissue culture sampling over and over, you're always going to have that kind of drift. But at least you'll know the neighborhood that you're in. You're in the right neighborhood, but in order for you to really get that consistency, you should get for consistent formulations that are created for you.
That's a great way. That's a great point too. Yeah. Every time cutting goes, the genetics slowly deteriorate, or tissue culture. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Well, I would love to have you back on here in the future, because this is like, seriously, this is such an important part of the cannabis industry. This is the revolutionizing aspect. I mean, there's many parts of this industry that's like that, but this is what brings the masses in and allows them to, really experience cannabis the right way. Anyways, thank you so much. Where can we find you? Do you have your personal social medias? Do you have, or do you want to just go to
we're at Endo DNA, ENDODNA.com, Endo DNA on social.
Okay. Well,
I'll Len May. You can reach me. Yeah. Oh, one more thing I wanted to offer. If you're interested, I'd like to offer your listeners, we'll send a discount code. If any of your listeners want to try it out, we'll provide that, and you can share that with your people.
Absolutely. I already know a few people that would do that. Absolutely. That would be amazing. That'd be amazing. Alrighty. Well, thank you. This is Len May, co-founder of Endo Canna Health/DNA. There we go. Bam. Sweet.